sirens go off, I'm on the roof looking for the tornado. Oh, I like watching them.
You all set?
Sure.
We'll call this meeting to order. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much for being at tonight's meeting.
Supervisor Ung is trying to call in.
Thank you very much, Auditor Gill. Our chairman is currently afar east in China and is attempting to call in, so we'll see if we can have him join us. The first item on tonight's agenda relates to citizen concerns. Are there any concerned citizens who would like to approach the board on any matter that is not on the agenda at this time? Hearing none, we will move to approval of the agenda dated May 16, 2017.
Move it. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 4-0. Items 4 through 13 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. These items will, of course, pass unanimously unless any one of you requests a separate roll call vote. Item 4 is approval of the minutes of the May 9th, 2017 meeting. Item 5 is approval of the claims. Item 6 is board administration, public bidder, Heather Satterwhite. A is approval of the notice of property sale resolution for the parcel listed there, also known as 2302 Jones Street, setting a public hearing for Tuesday, May 30th at 4:35 p.m. Item B is approval of notice of property sale for the parcel listed there, also known as 1821 Pierce Street, setting the time as Tuesday, May 30th at 4:37 p.m. Item 7 is the County Attorney Pat Gills. This is to receive an appointment of Ben Rabas to the Cushing City Council. Item 8, approval of a resolution thanking and commending a county employee for years of service. Item 9 is Human Resources at ULNA is to approve the memorandum of personnel transactions. B is authorized chairman to sign authorization to initiate the hiring process. C is the approval of a request to deauthorize a county position. 10 is planning and zoning. Director John Palello to receive a subdivision application with referral to Zoning Commission for public hearing and recommendation regarding the BK addition, a minor subdivision with a GIS parcel listed on the agenda.
That's not Burger King, right?
That is not Burger King to my knowledge. Thank you very much, Supervisor Radig, for the levity. Item 11, the secondary roads. Mark Nara. A is to consideration of a permit to work in the county right-of-way and a tile crossing permit. B is consideration to approve the permit to work in the right-of-way for Leonard Wilcox. Item C is consideration to approve the permit to work in the right-of-way for Nick Kerr. Item 12, A through J, are approval of resolutions levying special assessment and certificate to the county auditor of Woodbury County, Iowa, and the following drainage districts: Orton Slough, Smoky Hollow, Weber Creek, Wolf Creek, Bennett McDonald, Smithland, Wolf Creek Pumping District.
Supervisor Ung, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good.
Wolf Creek Pumping District number 2, Wolf Creek Pumping District number 3, Anthon Central Drainage, and Maple River Drainage. Item 13, Board Administration Dennis Butler and County Auditor Pat Gill. This is to authorize the chairman to sign the cost advisory contract to provide professional consulting services to Woodbury County for indirect cost calculations. This is the end of the consent agenda. Is there any desire for a separate roll call vote or to bifurcate any of these items from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I did have a question on number 13.
Yes.
There's no backup in the agenda packet.
Will our auditor please address authorizing the chairman to sign the cost advisory contract?
Wasn't there anything there, Dennis?
I don't believe there was, because Michelle had it, but I don't believe there was. It's an annual fee of $6,900. Anything over that, we do split.
This is something that we do every year. This is how they determine the state of Iowa's share of rent. Is that correct, Dennis? Or things of that nature.
Yeah, there is backup, Supervisor Ung. It says on the financial impact, the proposed annual fee, $6,900. The contract's for 3 years, and it has the 3-year contract renewal listed there.
Okay, I just didn't see the contract.
Is there anything that you want to add to that?
No.
All right, any other discussion?
I'll move the consent agenda. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. We will now move past item 14, as that's a set time of 4:40 p.m. Item 15, I would make a motion to defer until next week's meeting, as we'll have our Deputy Auditor, Michelle Scaff, with us, who may give us some input. Is that accurate, Mr.
Yes.
Auditor? Thank you very much. So I'll make that motion to defer on item 15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed
Aye.
say no, and the motion passes 5-0. We'll now move on to item 16 with our Director of Planning and Zoning, John Palello. And item A is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 44, zoning ordinance amendment for lots 1 through 5 on outlot A of Whiskey Acres addition. Director Palello.
We're requesting in each of these 3 agenda items that your board hold the public hearing, close the hearing, and then approve the ordinance amendment referred to in each agenda item. Be happy to address any questions you may have. If you recall, we addressed the same issue last week, as we will next week when the 3rd reading occurs. And we'll ask for your approval at that time to ordinance number 44. Regarding item 16A, this is a 5-lot subdivision on the north side of the right-of-way of 180th Street. It's a pretty standard subdivision other than the Outlot A issue, wherein we've got a governing agreement regarding previous inquiries that a board member had on payment of real estate taxes. It'll also be subject to a paving agreement under the county paving policy.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Director Palello? Hearing none, we will now hold a public hearing regarding this matter. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against regarding this matter?
Then I'd move that the public hearing be closed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the public hearing is now closed on a vote of 5-0. And Director Palello, you now need a motion to approve the second reading of that ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes.
I'd move to approve the second reading of the zoning ordinance number 44, zoning ordinance mapping amendment for rezoning lots 1 through 5 and outlot A of Whiskey Acres addition to AE.
Second.
Supervisor Potamom seconds. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. What do you need from us next, John?
Item 16B would be our next topic regarding a rezoning of Lot 1 of RJ addition for the Lieber family to remove the ability to have a residence located on this particular lot as it'll be continued to be used for light industrial development related to the Lieber family's operations of Lieber Construction and Bridgeport Materials.
So I do have a question for you. So it's a second reading. Do we have a third then as well?
Yes, next.
Is there a way to streamline that process? Can we move to waive the rules and have a third reading now?
We have attempted to do that in the past, and past county attorneys representing your board have said, hey, let's not waive the first and second readings and go right to third and approval.
Well,
I think
either-
we'd be hard pressed to make that change now, but I would be more than happy to take it before the county attorney again to find out if that's the way they want to allow us to at least recommend we do those things.
Sure, because, yeah, you know, I know at the city level, they'll sometimes waive the rules after the first hearing. And I was never a big fan of that. I thought you should always at least have two. But, you know, this has been on the agenda 4 or 5 times through different phases of the process. And
It does seem at times it's busy work, but
well, it's a holdup for whoever's doing whatever project or whatever at the same time. So,
exactly. I would concur.
okay.
I'll ask for that input, and we'll bring it before you next time around.
Appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Fortunately, we are running right up against another public hearing, so we will hold yours.
Oh, see, that was just stalling.
Right, right. Thank you for that, appreciate it. So we will hold off for right now on item 16B, because we are at a set time of 4:40 PM. I understand maybe 5:40 AM in the east. And the Rural Economic Development Director, David Gleiser, the A is public hearing and approval of the ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the 2017 amendment to the Grow-Woodbury County Urban Renewal Area by waiving the statutory rule that an ordinance be considered at 2 meetings prior to the meeting at which it is finally adopted. Director Gleiser.
Supervisors, good evening and good morning, Supervisor Young. This is the last step.
Good morning.
This is the last step in finalizing our amendment to the Grow-Woodbury County Urban Renewal Area, which will bring in real property for Gelita USA for their $22 million expansion. The recommendation would be to hold a public hearing, allow for a discussion, close the public hearing, and I am actually recommending that we waive the statutory requirement for the second and third public reading of the ordinance, just due to the fact that we've had multiple public hearings on this project. We've held a public consultation meeting, and we've had, at any of those meetings, they were never contested, and under the advice of our bonding attorney, we'd make that recommendation to waive the second and third reading and ask the board to adopt it for final approval this evening.
Thank you very much. Are there questions or discussion?
So I do have a question then. So process-wise, we would move it, then we would technically move to,
So,
Waive the second and third readings.
yes, hold a public hearing, close it, introduce the ordinance, motion to adopt it, vote on that, and then entertain a motion to waive the second and third reading, vote on it, and then finally a motion to adopt and
well, technically we'd waive our own rules or ordinance. We'd waive our rules to have a second and third hearing on this.
correct.
And then, right?
Not your rules, but the
Okay,
state
okay.
regulations.
Yes.
So do we have the power to waive state regulation?
Right there is the person asked. I believe you do, but that's her job.
Our bonding attorney that we have in Des Moines says we can.
The past practice has been this process exactly through the through the creation and every amendment to our urban renewal area.
Okay, so we're going to hold the public hearing. I'm going to introduce the ordinance, move to waive the second and third
Move to
readings.
adopt it.
Okay. Move to adopt it. Then move to waive the second and third readings. and then you want us to put it on its final consideration and adoption once again.
I just have a question. So if you had all three hearings, you would move to adopt the ordinance after all three
After
readings?
the third hearing.
No, after all three is what my question was. You would do that 3 times?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we even venture down
Oh,
here?
are we having the public hearing right now?
Yes, you need to open the,
So we are in a public hearing at this time, and we would take any public input for or against this particular amendment to the urban renewal area. Hearing none, I would move that the public hearing be closed.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Now, I will introduce an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property to the 2017 amendment to the Grow-Woodbury County Urban Renewal Area pursuant to Section 403.19 to the Code of Iowa.
Well, then I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Say no, and the motion passes 5-0.
and was that to adopt this ordinance then?
That was to introduce
And adopt.
and adopt.
He said a lot of words there, but forgot adopt.
Right?
Sorry.
Right.
Did you write all that down?
Got it.
Okay, good.
Now, you are asking us to move adoption again?
No, we have to move to waive the,
Right, that's,
I'll move to waive the second and third reading.
I'll second that. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0 to waive the second and third readings. And now, I'm going to make a motion, unless somebody tells me otherwise, that the ordinance be put up on its final consideration and adoption.
Then I will second it.
And Supervisor Addig seconds. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes
I didn't want Matt
5-0.
to feel lonely on that.
I appreciated your delay there. That was
Did
close.
you say it 5 seconds later to win?
He was on Eastern Standard Time. So,
I'm waiting for you, technically. I'm in the future.
okay.
He's a day ahead of us.
How'd the Cardinals do?
It's kind of getting weird, so we're going to move on. Do you have anything else then that you need for us to do? Well, we appreciate your work on this, and ultimately the repercussions for a community on an economic development.
Thank you. And I'll notify the company and they begin to move some dirt.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We might have to cover B and C on the agenda.
Are you going back to Director Parolo, or do you want me to do my items B and C?
Why don't we go ahead and have you do B and C? That's okay. So we will hear a quarterly update on the Rural Comprehensive Planning Project. As long as you have the podium, you have the floor.
Thank you. You have in your backup materials a memo that I received from Simmery Coring Incorporated with some notes highlighting activity within the last third quarter. They are finalizing a draft for the city of Hornick. They are still in the planning process with the city of Correctionville. They plan to present me with a draft along with city staff for Hornick this month. And we should begin to finalize the first comprehensive plan of this planning project, where we're going to have 11 cities with a new comprehensive plan. So that's good. Sloan and Bronson and Sloan have had their initial kickoff meeting with the consultants. They're providing the consultants with relevant information and working with their public works director and staff. Anthony and Pearson are in the process of just starting to gather all the required documents, historicals, and those sorts of things, budget information for the consultants to prepare. But at this point, I've received some comments from the consultants that they are a little bit behind in terms of where they would like to be. But what I was pleased about to hear from them was that even though they're a little bit behind, they are actually wanting to take the time to dig in and get meaningful input from their constituents, so that way the plans are something that are very specific to the communities, and it's not just a boilerplate sort of cookie cutter end product. So we still have, I've mentioned Anthony and Pearson. The next set of communities to start would be Odo, Danbury, and Smithland, and then we would finish with Cushing and Lawton. But for the most part, it seems like in Hornick, they've had a lot of good discussions. They've actually been working with them on their floodplain management plan and hazard mitigation plans, and have also recently presented them with some opportunities for outside grant funding. If the city chooses to do so, it would be able to contract with the consultants to provide assistance on that grant opportunity, or they could also work with Simcoe. They're also a dues-paying member with Simcoe as well, so.
Great. Any questions and discussion on this item? All right, well, that's good news. We heard from those folks out in Hornick about their concerns. What's been the role of the INS group? You mentioned that they've also been of help with the process. Are they kind of
Sure.
interfacing along the
So,
way, or?
INS Group is an engineering firm. They are the resident engineer for many of our rural communities, so they would be responsible for the plans and the engineering and the management of their water towers, their lagoons, a lot of their city infrastructure. So they've been heavily involved in this project from the very beginning. And what's nice is that because they are the resident engineer for most of these cities, they will actually be able to provide some realistic estimates, cost estimates for, say, if a community wanted to extend infrastructure from one side of town to the other, or to a tract of land that they think there's growth opportunities. So.
And that's something that the community is going to be taking care of financially as far as their involvement with an INS group, or?
Actually, INS submitted a joint proposal with Simmering and Corey.
Okay.
So they are working in tandem.
So that's part of that ultimate contract?
Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why I felt like their proposal had so much value, was because they actually had an engineering firm at the table.
Okay, great. All right, other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for that update. It's very helpful. Item 14C is a quarterly update on Simcoe and City County Membership Dues Project.
So this would be the third quarterly update from Simcoe, and as you'll recall, 8 cities accepted Woodbury County's offer to pay for 50% of their membership dues to Simcoe for technical assistance, grant writing services, administrative services, and so forth. Michelle Boston Nellis, the executive director of Simcoe, is actually here this evening. Her calendar wouldn't allow her to make the last 2 quarterly updates, but she's available to make comment and give you an update herself. So.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, sorry it took me to the third quarter to get here.
Oh,
It was
that's all right.
conflicting with some other meetings. I did give a report in here. Hopefully you're able to see that. If you flip to page 6 of it, it does kind of run through what we did for each community directly through there. About the third column over, the project information requested is really just the work during the third quarter. I think page 7 references the second quarter, but it's the third quarter. In Bronson, really helping them with the Safe Routes to School project planning, visioning, and committee work. They're partnering with the Lawton Broughton School District there. That's our work also with Siouxland District Health as we're working on that. In Danbury, we did assist with a DNR trail grant that they thought that they might apply for and didn't end up applying, but there's other trail grant opportunities coming up, so that doesn't mean that work isn't, we can use it again for the next opportunity for another trail grant. Hornick, we did help them draft a couple logos for their city and assist with their budget this year. Lawton, that was the community that did receive the Iowa Department of Public Health physical activities and nutrition grant, so they got about $10,000 to implement a project. So that's just been going in to administer that grant, keep the project going. They're actually going to put some new sidewalks in, and they put in a new watering system for their community garden. So some of that will be paid for through this grant with that. We did meet with, I did meet with the city clerk and the mayor during this quarter to talk to them about other project and priorities that they have going on there. Odo has asked for assistance with their budget and submitting that paperwork. Salix used a lot of their time up during the first quarter doing that water sewer cost benefit analysis. So really with Salix, we've just been helping them out with questions that they've been asking regarding planning processes and different grants and whatnot. So just mostly phone conversations that are going back and forth. Smithland again was another one preparing city budget and submitting that for them. Sergeant Bluff, a lot of Safe Routes to School project. If you remember, Sergeant Bluff is part of our Metropolitan Planning Organization, so the MPO. So we kind of listed a few of the things, but we have our technical committee and the policy board. I know Keith is familiar with that process. The IJR is going on in the Southbridge area. We have actually a lot going on with the transportation model right now that we're going back through and inputting new numbers for our forecasting. The area is growing so much that we realized we were too conservative with our growth numbers, so we're going back through and reworking some of those forecasting analysis, which helps the IJR and some of the development that's going on in that area. Our STBG applications were also due during this quarter, so that's the Surface Transportation Block Grant, and Sergeant Bluff and Woodbury County were successful at receiving funding for that for road projects, which I think I had somewhere in here listed what they received for those, about $3 million total for Sergeant Bluff and Woodbury County. So just the time it takes to get those applications out and process that and get them into the Transportation Improvement Program. I do include on here also kind of indirect time, because there are a lot of things that Simcoe does that's just good for the region, and Woodbury County communities are part of that region. So you can see some of that is our newsletter, grant, blasts, notification of events that are going on. So we make sure all the communities get that so they know what's going on. They can call us, and if they see a grant that they're interested in or a project they're interested in, they can jump on it. Committees and boards, there's on here a list of all the committee and board meetings that we attend to. Our pitch work, there are a few non-members that we've been helping with the Partnership to Improve Community Health project with Siouxland District Health. Pavement management is an ongoing project that we're working on in the county. And I think just kind of the general RPA transportation work out in the rural area also. A lot of time is spent this time of year getting the Transportation Improvement Program all together so that projects receiving federal dollars can move forward as they're going through. So that's kind of it right now. It seems like maybe less direct time in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter coming up already, we've had some TIF trainings. We're having a training next week for firework legislation, what the communities need to do to include in their ordinances. So trying to offer some training like that. So otherwise, we're always available to the communities. They can give us a call and tell us what they need help with, what they're working on, and we can try to jump in and help. I think once you see these comp plans get done, I think then for a lot of communities, they need to know what their visions and their goals are and what the community wants to do. Once they get that lined up, then it's really easier to start executing a plan to go forward with that idea. So.
Very good. We really appreciate knowing your time and efforts and how they've been spent, and also some of the results. So I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
Questions, discussion?
I guess, Lawton is a community I always thought could benefit from trail grants in the future. I don't know if they've thought about it there, because I know typically a lot of people are anti-growth as the general populace of Lawton goes. Mm-hmm. They don't really want to expand south of Highway 20. But I do think, with all their expansion further west, there's a neat opportunity along the creek there to do a trail under the bridge and along the creek. And I just think that could be a great way to bridge into the south area, south of Highway 20, for kids that are going to have to walk to school. They'd no longer have to cross a divided highway. And
I don't know that particular trail, but I know in talking with the mayor and the clerk, they are interested in trails and trail grants and expanding the trail system. A lot of our communities right now are waiting for the Regional Transportation Alternative Program funds to become available. Those are something we would have normally done in the third quarter. There is a discussion regarding the process at the DOT level right now, so they've put a hold on that funding for right now. So as soon as we get the okay from the DOT, we'll be collecting or sending out RFPs for those projects, and we'll definitely, let Lawton know that that's available and that they can apply for it, encourage them to.
Michelle, one thing I'd ask too, and I really appreciate this, and this board has made an investment in partnering with these communities, and we think it's money worth spending. If there are projects that either come to fruition or there is some net tangible results that you see, please identify those too. And what I mean by that is, for example, you say, I helped with submitting the city budget. If there are things that those communities are now doing that are different, maybe they hadn't done in the past, or they're including some growth money or an economic development project, I think we'd love to learn about those as well. Or
Okay.
with the safe routes, if they, they get stood up, some different projects, those would be great to know about.
Okay, yeah, sure, I can give that maybe in my final report. I know,
That'd be great.
The best example probably so far going forward is Lawton with that $10,000 to finish off that sidewalk. Definite, with that. And I think in Salix, they actually received a plan, that water and sewer cost benefit plan. They have a hard copy of a plan that they can go off with recommendations.
Right,
So-
right.
But I can go through the list and kind of pull out all those for you.
Great, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very good work. Anything else, supervisors?
The last report, that's part of what I'll do is formulate a recommendation back to the board after the last quarter. I do intend to survey all the participating cities in terms of what, their feedback was, and was there value in it? Was this something that you'd want to do again? And then also demonstrate, had it not been for their assistance, these are some of the outcomes and good stuff that has happened because of the project, so.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Thank you both. All right, well, having dispensed with items 14A through C, we are now back to Director John Palello, Planning and Zoning, item 16B. And if my short-term memory serves me correctly, we were about to hold a public hearing.
Correct.
On the second reading of ordinance number 44, the zoning ordinance amendment for Lot 1 of RJ Addition. We're now in a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against this particular item. Hearing none, I would move that the public hearing be closed.
Second?
A motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the public hearing is closed on a vote of 5-0. And now, Director Palello, you need us to.
A motion for approval of second reading of ordinance number 44 for a mapping amendment to Lot 1 of RJ Addition.
I'll move that.
Second.
Is motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Say no, and the motion passes 5-0. We're now on item C, which is public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 44, zoning ordinance amendment for Lot 2 of RJ Addition. We're now in that public hearing, if anybody would like to speak for or against on this particular item. Hearing none, I'd move that the public hearing be closed.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. And the final motion that John Palello would ask of us tonight is?
A motion for the approval of second reading of zoning ordinance number 44 for a mapping amendment for Lot 2 of RJ Addition.
I would move that.
Second?
It's seconded by Supervisor Radig. Any discussion on this particular item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll be back with you next week for the third reading and final approval.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, John. We have now dispensed with items number 1 through 16. We are to item 17, Building Services, Director Kenny Schmitz. And
Mr. Chair, I believe you skipped number 15.
we deferred on number 15.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
He just woke up.
Item 17.
Thank you, Raddick. I'll get you back.
Item 17 is our Director Kenny Schmitz, Building Services. Item A is to approve the courthouse and steam trap service and replacement project change order number 1. And if I may, Kenny, do you mind if I pass out some of the information?
Sure, yes, that'd be great.
Okay, so one of the things, not to preempt, Kenny, but usually when I hear the bad word change order, I ask questions and anticipated that you may as well. And so, do you want to lead us off, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And this agenda item may have, in hindsight, been written in a different manner that may have expedited things. The change orders 1, 2, and 3 before you are for the courthouse steam trap project. Now, these are all change orders that were planned on and previously, the funds were previously approved by this board as part of the steam trap project. We initially set aside funds to address items that we were pretty sure that we'd run into problems with. In other words, we figured that we'd have some additional traps that were going to be bad. We knew that there was a good possibility that we'd have some valves that wouldn't shut off, or there would be areas where there were no valves at all that we would have to add, or that we'd find some steam piping or condensate piping that would be bad somewhere along the way. Unfortunately, we did find all 3 of those problems. We addressed those through all 3 of these change orders. Again, the board has already approved the expenditure for the funds. What we're doing today is approving each one of the 3 change orders in the actual dollar amounts that we are going to expense for those 3 items. In the future, and I don't know the rules here, but maybe you can help me, if I put a little more item in your backup materials, maybe this is something that could be done as a consent agenda item. I'm not sure, but there's a possibility of that, because what we're really doing here is just kind of going through the motions, approving the actual dollar amounts, and signing the change orders.
Supervisor Potamon.
The only comment I would, and I understand the funds are there, but I wouldn't want to put anything with the word change order in the consent agenda, personally. I may be the only one, but
No, and
I think you're right. If you reworded it, I'd be fine with it.
It is common across the alley to see change orders on consent.
Yeah, but I just said personally, I don't care what the rest of you do.
And not a problem.
Because you can always
I-
pull them off if you want to vote against it, or, I mean, we can discuss it still, even if it's on a consent agenda. It's just.
Well, like I said, I understand with the money, I'm all for these. I just, for a consent agenda, it bothers me to have change order, because that's sort of like what you said. When I see that term,
Right.
normally it's not a good term to hear from this side.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have this back and forth, and I think this will be helpful. One of the things to just lead off is, if we've approved this in the budget previously, it's nice to know that, because if it's, that makes a huge difference, right? If we hadn't planned for it, and if it was as much as this term as possible, an anticipated change order. In other words, we knew that this was potentially coming. We'd received a price for it, in which we're not going to have 3 or 4 times the cost. That's typically what you think of with the change order. Having that information up front, that's why I appreciate you coming up with this in order to help us along and to know some of those things. I think ultimately it'll be left to the chair of this board whether or not to put that in the consent agenda, but that'll be something that on a case basis, I assume will be determined. So,
Yeah, because actually in learning more about this, to me, I don't see this as a change order.
right.
We've already approved it, the money. Good anticipation.
It's a change to the contract.
It
Yeah.
is, and
It was an
that's why we've got
anticipated
change
change.
orders to the contract.
So are there questions on these particular anticipated change orders or items? Shane, if you,
When we came to the board to allow for this, these change orders are substantially less than what we had planned. We asked for $100,000 to be put in this because of how bad we assumed a lot of the piping to be. And we actually were pleasantly surprised that we could get it done for a lot less, that we didn't run into as many problems as we had anticipated. A number of the valves did close. And we were able to replace some good condensate return lines to get those done that had deteriorated and would have caused failures in the future. So there was some good things that were found because of this, so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I had moved to approve the courthouse steam, and we'll take these one at a time. I had moved to approve the courthouse steam trap project, AIA, change order number 1 in the amount of $15,693.10.
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. I'd move to approve courthouse steam trap project, AIA, change order number 2 in the amount of $9,838.
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Item 3 is a motion to approve the courthouse steam trap project, AIA, change order number 3 in the amount of $2,716.50.
Second?
Second by Supervisor DeWitt. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenny. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. Item 18, secondary roads, their county engineer, Mark Nara. And item A is to consider approval of a project agreement with the Hungry Canyons Alliance for a stream stabilization project. Mark?
Good afternoon, Mark Nara, Woodbury County Engineer. First item is, as you said, a grant from Hungry Canyons. Typically on our bridge replacement projects, if we're doing some stream bed elevation control, soil conservation measure as part of that project, we can apply for Hungry Canyons money to help fund that portion of the project. This is to replace Bridge Q2, I believe it's on 220th Street, if I remember correctly.
This is Q10 in the book.
Q10, I'm sorry. Yep, you're right.
No problem.
This is a structure that has a flume. We're replacing it with a culvert with elevation grade control going across the road. $67,837 is the Hungry Canyon share toward that project. I recommend approval.
I'd move approval.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Does that, as a culvert in general, maintenance is a lot less than a bridge, or inspection process, is that less? Or does it still have to be inspected every other year?
Depends. If the culvert is over 20 feet from inside a wall to inside a wall, like we have with the twin 10-by culvert, then it has the same inspection requirements as a bridge.
Okay.
Smaller ones, like a twin 8x8, would not be required to be inspected by the federal government, but we still do it in-house.
Sure.
Typically, a brand-new culvert, we look at it about every 4 years, just to make sure everything's going all right. The failures of those tend to be more slope embankment problems than structural problems. But we put in culverts where they fit hydraulically. Basically, up to about 2.5 square miles, we can make some sort of a box culvert work. Up to about 1 square mile, we can make a pipe culvert work. Once you get over that 2.5 to 3 square miles, it becomes a push between the cost of a small bridge and a twin box culvert usually.
Okay.
I have the items for the consent agenda that I'll bring up to for signatures. The drainage district resolutions require all 5 signatures, and Auditor Gill as well. It's all consent agenda.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second.
Yeah, ready to vote when you are?
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Item B is to consider approval of a contract and bond for project number BRS-CO 971126-097.
This is the bridge replacement project on Highway Old 141. The contractor is ready to go to work fairly quickly, so we're trying to fast-track this contract. This is a project that's going to kind of chop up our farm-to-market road system in that area for a while, so getting the contractor in there early hopefully means that he'll be done early. We're expecting a pre-construction meeting shortly after DOT approves the contracts. We need to do that before we can have those discussions with the board. I recommend approval of the contract for $952,298.15.
I'll move it.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Item C is to consider allowing secondary road staff to participate in Saturday Touch a Truck Expo.
As part of the Mobile Days celebration, the organizers had requested that we once again bring a couple of pieces of county equipment to exhibit. We did this in 2015 with board approval. It requires roughly 4 hours overtime by 2 staff members. Last time we took in one dump truck and 1 motor grader. We had a lot of good feedback from our participation in that project. We just got to find 2 volunteers to come in on Saturday and participate with that. But with the board's permission, I think it's good for the kids to see what we do. Maybe spark some interest someday in the job.
I'll move it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. Item D is to receive quotes for a tandem axle dump truck for the secondary road department.
Oh, we got a lot of them.
Yeah, this is a pretty good number of bids this year. I do have bid tabulations for the board.
Matthew, it looks like we got about 30 bids.
Hot diggity dog.
How much is this costing you per minute?
It's not. I'm using Skype.
It's a really good connection wherever he's at.
Xi'an. Small Chinese city of only 8 million people.
Wow. Our first bid is from Peterbilt of Sioux City. This is to replace an existing truck. We're trading off an Oshkosh all-wheel drive snowplow. It's full-time equipped with a spreader, an underbody blade, plow, and wing. The truck was in need of some repair. We felt it was better to hold on to one of our older tandems and trade the Oshkosh at this time.
A 20-year-old truck.
Yeah. They tend to hold their value, and they're very stout when it comes to plowing heavy snow. They cost about $250,000 new. The truck's also a single-season truck, where a tandem truck would tend to be something we can use for hauling gravel or dirt as well. So, looking at our current and future needs, we decided the best way to go in this case was to trade the Oshkosh and replace it with a tandem. I just got to find his quote sheet. Okay, he's offered 2 bids. The first, Purchase price of truck and equipment, $205,979, $205,979. Trade-in on the Oshkosh, $9,500. Net purchase price with trade, $196,479. He states that there's a couple of options that we'll have to review before we make a recommendation. This was utilizing Stefan trucks for the equipment mounted on the truck chassis. The second utilizes TBEI. That's a company out of southern Minnesota. They built truck 506, which was the last Tanner we bought. I'm sorry, 501. The TBEI bid, $209,079.21 for the purchase price. $9,500 again for the trade. Net purchase price with trade, $199,579.21. The next bid is from I-State Truck Center of Sioux City. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $192,160. Trade-in purchase, or trade-in for vehicle number one, $7,600. Net purchase price with trade, $184,560. $184,560. I missed the little shelf that was in there. It's a good thing we're not a packed house this week. Next one is from Boyer Ford Trucks of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $191,660. $191,660. Trade-in vehicle number one, $28,000. Net purchase price with trade, $163,600. Next bid is from Sioux City Truck and Trailer. Purchase price of the truck and equipment, $191,250. Trade-in on vehicle number one, $67.50. Net purchase price with trade, $184,500. This is one, there was interest in that Oshkosh truck, so we did receive, or we did allow for bids for outright purchase of the truck. This is the first one where that occurred, and they offered $5,000 for the truck as an outright purchase. Sometimes people, some other counties and such, might be looking for a truck like this for parts or for some other purpose. So with this being a rather unique truck, we did put it out for bid in that manner. we would then recommend the best combination of trade or outright sale and purchase price. It'll be a lot of numbers to look at. It'll probably take 2 weeks to get the recommendation to you, just like the motor grader.
Okay.
From Tuesday night until Thursday at noon, it's just not enough time to look at specifications, especially when you have some variance between models and brands.
Well, on that too, I could almost see you needing another large motor grader, because I've been out in the county roads in winter time, and I've seen one of the small motor graders get stuck, and I had to wait until the big one could show up and pull the small one out. So, I don't know. I don't know how many you got. I think you said 3 of the bigger ones out there. So.
Well, we're getting more and more of the all-wheel drives out there.
Okay.
And I think we're going to start seeing the benefit of that. When I got here, we had 1.
Okay.
I think now we're up to 5, and with this year's purchase, all we did was all-wheel drives. So we'll be up to 7 at that point. A third of our fleet will have it. And that will begin to make a tremendous difference in the speed at which we can get around and the ability to get unstuck on their own. This next one is from Cornhusker International Trucks. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $192,977. $192,977. Trade-in on the Oshkosh, $7,500. Net purchase price with trade, $185,477. Cornhusker's giving us a lot of options here. There's 4 more bids. And that's probably equipment suppliers of dump bodies and plows and that type of equipment. So. Purchase price on the second bid from Cornhusker, $199,851, $7,500 trade-in value. Net purchase price with trade, $192,351. The next option, purchase price of truck and equipment, $201,298, $201,298. $7,500 trade, net purchase price with trade, $193,798.
Is this still from Cornhusker?
This is still Cornhusker. We're getting more bodybuilders contacted us this time. We were contacted by a company out of Minnesota, a company out of Fort Dodge, and one out of Council Bluffs. Steffens is now owned by, I think it's iState? Am I right on that? No, Sioux City Truck. This is one of our dealers.
How you doing?
And I think some of the other truck bodybuilders would like to get a shot at our work. We had TBI last time. Well, again, after we sort through all the bids, we'll make a recommendation which way to go. The next bid is $201,736, $7,500 trade. Net purchase price with trade, $194,236. And the final one from Cornhusker. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $192,335. $7,500 trade. Net purchase price with trade, $184,835. There were no offers to purchase the current truck outright. And we have two from Reese Mac Sales and Service of Lawton, Iowa. Used a lot of tape. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $206,417.21. 206-417-21. Purchase or less trade, $6,000. Net purchase price with trade, $200,417. And our final quotation, also from Reese Max Sales of Lawton. Purchase price of truck and equipment, $211,476. Less trade-in on the vehicle, $6,000. Net purchase price with trade, $205,476. That concludes the bidding on the new tandem truck. Recommend the be received and that the engineer's office be allowed to review and make a recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no, and the motion passes 5-0. We're now to item 18E, which is to receive quotes for 2 pickup trucks for the secondary road department. How many bids do you have here, Mark?
2.
2.
Get the one with the best stereo.
That's it. The foreman were teasing, the foreman, one of the other foremen about, we were going to get a Chevy High Country, which is their top package. Had him going for a little while. Our first bids are from Berry Motor Company. One of these trucks will go to a district foreman. The district foreman's truck will then go to a crew truck. It has a fuel tank in it. It'll be used for fueling and servicing equipment in the field when we're doing grading jobs and such. The other truck is a regular cab, 4-wheel drive. It'll do a similar purpose. When we purchased that foreman's truck, I didn't realize you could still get manual locking hubs on a 4-wheel drive. You want to mess with that at 3 in the morning with snow hitting the backside. We're going to allow this truck to move down into the fleet as a service and transport vehicle rather than being the one the foreman uses every day.
So you've got bids on 2 different trucks?
2 different trucks.
Okay.
1 3/4 ton regular cab, 1 3/4 ton extended cab.
Which one's this one on?
Berry Motors, first bid is for the regular cab pickup. Purchase price, $28,231. Less trade for the current unit number 22, $5,100. Net purchase price, $23,131. I'm looking to see if he did the other one.
What kind of truck was that?
The trade or the new one? Oh,
The
this
new
is
one.
a Ford F-250 4-wheel drive. Apparently, he only bid the regular cab. There's not an accompanying bid for the extended cab. The next bid is from Knapfler Chevrolet. For the extended cab pickup, purchase price $34,700. Trade-in for unit number 37, which is a K1500 four-wheel drive pickup, $2,000. Net purchase price $32,700.
And that was a Silverado then, or what?
That is a Silverado 2500 HD four-wheel drive double cab. And then for, they're bidding a regular cab 2500 HD for the other unit. Purchase price $30,500. Trade-in on unit 22, $2,000. Net purchase price with trade, $28,500. I would request that the bids be received and the engineer be allowed to review them and make a recommendation to the board.
Move it. Second?
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Say no, and the motion passes 5-0. We are now to item 18F, which is to consider approval of the amended FY 2018 Woodbury County 5-year construction program.
If it seems like we did this a month ago, we did, but we had I made a clerical error in dealing with a couple of our federal aid projects. Federal aid projects are considered on a statewide basis. Statewide, all the counties and all the city projects have to be fiscally constrained. So it's very important that the money line up in the appropriate years. After I had the program prepared, assuming that the projects were in 1 year, they got bumped to meet those fiscal constraint issues. Before our region can turn this in to the Federal Highway Administration, we need to have everything in the proper years. So we're editing 2 projects, both federal aid STP projects, one through the MPO and one through the RPA, the Regional Planning Agency. Simcoe runs them both, but they have different. The MPO is Sioux City, Sergeant Bluff, Woodbury County, and our neighboring communities in Nebraska and South Dakota. CERTA is the other group, the Siouxland Regional Transportation Planning Agency. That takes Ida, Cherokee, Monona, and Plymouth and Woodbury counties in its group. So we had one project in each of those that required funding. I recommend approval of the revised program.
I'd move approval of the revised FY18 Woodbury County 5-year construction program.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Before I sign, I'd just like to know where.
Where it says chairman.
Just on the front?
Yes,
That's it? Okay.
that's the only place you have to sign.
Okay,
And
very
then
good.
the auditor is also required to sign that as well.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0.
I just had one more item to share that's related to the construction program, but not included therein. These projects are all in the out years, but at the meeting where we added the Haskell Bridge back into the program, I told the board I would report back to them with our changes that will occur when we do the fiscal year 2019 through 2023 programs. I will do this in one of those 3-minute updates. I restarted it there. I brought additional in case the press was there. The column on the left side of the page is the projects that we originally shared with the board as the ones that are funded out of the local budget that could, if necessary, be bumped to make room for the Haskell Avenue Bridge. The right side is the changes in the program caused by that addition. So you can see in fiscal year 2019, we had the Haskell Avenue Bridge, estimated cost about $750,000. It's about a $30,000 push in that first year for programming. If you go down to 2020, then you can see that we bump bridges M299. I'm sorry, I went too far. In 2019, we bumped bridge J178 and bridge M66 down into 2020. So you can, the colors follow where the projects are that we're bumping. In 2020, we bumped projects M299 and B213 to make room for the 2019 projects that are bumped. So each year, we bump about the same amount of projects. Right now, this is looking like it's going to affect 7 bridge projects, possibly 8. You can see that in 2022, we're about $300,000 higher than programmed. We'll have to see how our cash flow is going and how these bridge projects are affected as we roll through those programs. In reviewing this and coming up with the bridges that are bumped, I looked at the ones that had critical defects, low postings, and items that might require to be closed more quickly. Occasionally we'll have a pile break or a pile have such a level of deterioration that it can't support a legal load. We end up having to close the bridge. So in choosing the bridges that got bumped, those are the ones that had defects, but ones that would be less critical and less likely to result in closure. I can't guarantee that we'll be perfect on anticipating that, but going over the bridge inspections, this is why we do them every 2 years, and making our best guess of the bridges that would be least impacted by a 1-year delay. These are the ones we came up with maneuvering through the program. This will be reflected again when we do the fiscal year 2019 program in March of 2018.
This is something that I believe falls under your jurisdiction, does not take board approval or anything.
Correct, it does not need approval. You'll make the ultimate approval next year when we do the program, so.
Great.
But again, at least this way you know that we were able to accommodate Haskell in the program and the projects that were affected by that accommodation.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion on this front?
So down at the bottom, the notes like Bridge U51, that's already in our current, because it's not listed as a bridge to be replaced, so is that one?
That one is in fiscal year 2018.
Okay.
We didn't bump any projects out of fiscal year 2018 because they're all in the design stage already. It would be, none of the bridges from 2019 on have survey done or any of that work. That would be started next year about this time, so.
Okay.
I didn't want to affect this current fiscal year program to bring that one in any earlier than 2019. We waste a lot of time when we do that. Bridges take between 9 and 12 months to get through all of the permitting requirements and design requirements that they have to go through to get to a letting.
Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate
Thank
all
you.
your work. Item 19 is Chairman's report, or Vice Chairman's in this case. Just a few things to keep you aware of in the last week and a half. LEC expansion, had a quick meeting, just to kind of be updated, and wanted to update you then as a board. Getting close to a design, a build design on the intake area to the point where they're starting to pick out furnishings, moving the ball downfield as far as getting ready to be able to go out to bid. Even some of the specificity regarding danger areas with what happened in Council Bluffs and lessons learned there, as well as continual input from the Sheriff's Office, I think has been a very good model for communication as our Building Services Director looks to that input as along with the project manager. So also reviewing a CBM contract. As you know, that's part of their moving from Prairie Hills to the LEC expansion. fully anticipate that we'll be continuing on with CBM, and just need to review some of that with our county attorney and budget analyst as far as some proposed modifications. July to August bid documents will be out, and what I asked is when will we cut the ribbon, so to speak? May 1st of 2018 could be the intake area, as well as part of the medical area. And what I've asked is that they continually ask ACH, those are the people that are going to be using it, as well as to take a lot of photographs for sort of the before and after pictures. And the reason I've been asking them to slow down and do that along the way is I think it's important to show people what it is that their tax dollars are going toward and how it's actually improving. And so I look forward to that. You may have heard May 1st of 2018 along with the historic centennial as a proposed date. So what we're asking those folks is modify the contract, or before you actually have the contract signed, that they need to stop doing what they're doing for a week's time and not charge the county anymore, so to speak. And so that may be a part of their contract if it would impede the centennial celebration during that week. Any questions on that? B is region levy review and impact to county tax rates. Had a good meeting with Dennis Butler and Keith talking about as liaisons to the region. Also been back and forth communication with Shane Walter, the CEO, and anticipate that the region will take action next week in which we will be allowed to lower our levy by just a little over 12 cents per thousand, which would be nearly $500,000 to county taxpayers. That's both in incorporated and in unincorporated areas. It'd be a 4-year plan, but it will equalize the levy. Legislation's allowed us to finally do that, and I think that's a good thing that we can celebrate. With that said, we're going to need to help hold the line on the budget there, and some of that may be in regards to one-time improvement requests that have been a practice of yesteryear, but may need to be limited, if not ended.
Eliminated.
That's another way of saying it. So anticipate that would come before this board. Any questions or thoughts there? 99 County Bible reading is something that we've been asked to approve. It does not need approval because it's something that someone can use public sidewalking rounds to do. That'll take place between June 26th and the 30th from 8 to 5 p.m. Had a good department head meeting. I was appreciative Supervisor DeWitt was able to attend, and you may have received the agenda. And so we've got a couple of copies here if you haven't received them already. Also at that meeting, Kenny gave a list of the county courthouse projects and how they've been coming along. And so I thought it was a good meeting overall, and honored Vicki DeWitt for her service on the Woodbury County Veterans Commission, and welcomed Emily Clayton. Talked a little bit about the Garden Reserve and the Law Enforcement Memorial, which will take place tomorrow, and honoring law enforcement and their sacrifice. And then just gave updates on the historic centennial, and just had some good conversations on what's going on from all department heads and elected officials. So I thought it was hopefully a fruitful meeting. Any thoughts or questions there? And then finally, the historical committee meeting will have minutes out to you shortly. And we've had a lot of discussion on May 1st to the 6th as a week-long of events. We're anticipating the cost being around $50,000, $10,000 of which could come from the Courthouse Foundation, maybe $20,000 from gaming revenue, and $20,000 perhaps from sponsorships. And have really appreciated the committee's work and talking about different themes each day to include what this courthouse was once used for, and the Monahan Post and Red Cross, of course the judicial system and beyond. Talked about 100 days of tours, and then different historians and art experts and dignitaries throughout that week. A lot of lunch and learns. And we think that there's very good things that are coming. Pat, would you mind sharing a little bit of what you discovered from the time capsule? If you've all heard about this?
Sure. Kenny Schmidt sent an email to me, asked me to check to see if there was any information that the county had previously of what had appeared in the minutes as far as a cornerstone of the county. And went to the minutes, and lo and behold, on the minutes of July 10th of 1916, there was a listing of everything that was included in a cornerstone. It was pretty interesting. It actually includes the contents of a previous time capsule from a previous courthouse 40 years prior to that. And they did a pretty good job, it looks like, of itemizing what they put in that time capsule. After that, I went over and to the library and located a picture of them actually putting the cornerstone in place. Supervisor Henry Metz was actually placing the time capsule on the cornerstone. It was a pretty, I thought it was a pretty neat find to see that. And they also had an article of who spoke at that ceremony when they did put the time capsule in. So I thought it was pretty neat.
Absolutely. Good find, and thank you for your help in doing so.
Yeah.
So what goes into the next time capsule will be something to discuss. How we extract that and everything along those lines will be something that the committee helps make a recommendation about. But there's some great, I think, exciting things that are going on. Have you received copies of these as well?
Very neat.
Okay. So those are some things detailing some of the restorative efforts, and we'll be working with John Malloy and some IT folks on a smartphone application perhaps for tours, and look forward to that coming back before you all.
So this must have been a Germanic newspaper in 1916, huh? The Volksfreund? Or,
That sounds like it.
yeah, that, or I guess that could be, oh, what is that? Yeah. Maybe that was the last issue.
All right. Yeah, that is there. All right, well, that's all. And one other thing, we have a jail alternative coordinator, Nia Key, who we're very excited about. Ran a homeless transition center, received her master's from Temple. The region is supportive. We believe she'll be a great addition to really obviating the jail as a place for mental health issues. And so it had a kind of a start and stop with a first person who doesn't sound like went through with the relocation to this area, but we're very, very excited about her and having Nia Key and her efforts, and anticipate that she'd be introduced at a department head meeting and perhaps in front of this board.
Just out of curiosity, is she going to handle just the jail, or is she also going to try to do juvenile detention?
To my knowledge, it'll be just the jail.
Just the jail.
It's a good question. I think we talked a little bit with Mark Olson about somebody that he had prior that had worked with him that plans to continue doing so.
Okay, because the reason I ask is the Rabner Treatment Center board that I'm on in Fort Dodge, we have the person that handles 26 counties around Fort Dodge that's been in contact with us about juvenile mental health deferrals to get them out of juvenile detention and get them into help. So, and I hadn't heard of juveniles doing it, so I just was curious.
Well, and I can follow up too with Mark and just confirm that they're continuing that relationship that had been previously in contact and had been handling that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, well, that's all I have as far as Chairman's report. Reports on committee meetings is item 20.
Nothing.
Rock, do you want to do the landfill?
Yeah, I think we voted to go with the recommendation, and They're going to add some, basically some venting to vent off the methane. And I think it was going to be a cost of up to 50,000. They're anticipating 30 to 40, but could go up to 50 with their different. They discovered some kinked test wells, more or less, and they're going with recommendations to bring it up to code and get ahead of the curve, I guess.
But they were working on a letter from DNR that gave them some things that they thought we should do. They haven't ordered us to do it yet, and the recommendation was we better do it before we're ordered, or it could be more added to the order. And they were going to do one, what's the screen they dropped down a well, and then some venting besides, just outside of the actual landfill to try to catch the gas that's, I think is what's bothering the
Killing the vegetation there.
well, the vegetation's in another spot, but this is what they're afraid is getting into the groundwater. And they have two ways you can do it. One is groundwater going through the actual landfill and coming out contaminated. And the other is gas getting out of the landfill and getting into the groundwater that way. And so they're going to put in some vents between the landfill and hope, because there's a creek down below too. They want to make sure that we never get to where we're contaminating it. But they said 30 to 40,000, and then he says, but I always figure if you don't get going pretty quick, you might hit 50, so.
What about capturing it?
They're not even going to try to capture right now. One, they don't think there's that much, and secondly, where it's at, they're going to, because we talked about capture or just venting, and they decided that, first of all, the venting, even the materials they use now, a lot of them end up being destroyed by the gas itself. And so they're going to just put in the vents for now to see if that will eliminate the problem, and then there'll be further discussion further down the line.
Thank you both very much. Appreciate that. Other committee meetings of note? 21, citizen concerns. Any concerned citizens? And 22, board concerns. Just want to thank Major Greg Stallman, and there is a card that all board members have signed, which I just wanted to make sure. Appreciate as he's taking over in Altoona, and hope to see everyone potentially tomorrow at the Law Enforcement Memorial, as we appreciate all that those folks do in keeping us safe. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns to come before this board? Hearing none, we stand adjourned. We wish you the very best, Chairman Ung, in your travels.
Thank you.
Were you watching it on YouTube there?
No, there's an extra lag when you try to do that.
I was just trying to figure out how many days it would be lagged.
Well, it was actually challenging to get the agenda. I had to use a virtual private network to download it, but it worked out.
Well, have a good trip.
Thank you.
Mark?
All the board members have. Except for Martha. And it's upstairs. That's
as well sign it, because you have to get them all too. Yeah, Rocky had told me about something else, and he mentioned that guy, and I forgot about it. But, I'll get a hold of him. Okay, that's fine, I just wanted to make sure he saw what I did.
Yes.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised by Supervisor on having a good connection, because usually we can talk to Danielle without any drops too over in South Korea, so. But they say South Korea has some of the best internet infrastructure in the world.
Yeah, I think South Korea and China are playing the field in Vietnam. I can remember being on some smoky internet cafes, a bunch of teenagers, and feels like dial-up.
Yeah. Well, I know when Danielle was in Cambodia and Thailand, we didn't communicate with her there, but every night she posted on Facebook, so we could tell when she'd get back to her hotel room and what she had seen on a given day. So they're all getting more connection. Yeah, I'm gonna give them to Karen, so that she, oh, okay, just have her get the rest of the board signature. I gotta go up and sign that card, so I can take it to her too. Thank you, appreciate you getting them.